The chamber of the Galactic Council glimmered like a cathedral carved from starlight. Rings of alien delegates floated in tiers, their bodies shimmering in every imaginable form, scaled, translucent, feathered, mechanical. The air buzzed with tension and the faint hum of translation devices, turning 1,000 incompatible languages into a polite monotone. They had gathered to discuss the human incident, that inconvenient retaliation after a minor planetary cleansing. It was supposed to be a routine hearing. Nothing about humans was ever routine. The High Consul of Velar Prime clicked its mandibles, summoning silence. Representatives of the Terran Coalition, it announced, voice dripping with condescension. You may present your envoy. For a beat, there was no sound. Then, footsteps. Actual, deliberate footsteps, echoing through the vast chamber like drumbeats of defiance. From the far end, a single human walked forward. General Evelyn Sharp. She was neither tall nor imposing by galactic standards, just a woman in her 40s with iron-gray hair tied back and a uniform too modest for the pomp of the occasion. Yet every movement carried precision, as though gravity itself deferred to her. "Apologies for being 5 minutes late," she said cheerfully, setting a slim briefcase on the polished floor. "Traffic near Alpha Centauri. You know how those wormholes get during diplomatic season." A ripple of uneasy laughter moved through the delegates. Only humans would mock punctuality before the council. Evelyn smiled, a soft, measured thing that never reached her eyes. She clasped her hands behind her back, posture perfectly calm. "I understand we're here to discuss the unfortunate event at Arcadia Colony," she continued. "An event where, if I recall, 32,000 civilians were vaporized for the crime of building schools too close to your shipping lanes." The High Consul's carapace flared crimson. "A tragic misunderstanding," it hissed. "Collateral damage. You humans overpopulate every rock you find." "Overpopulate," she repeated, as if tasting the word. "Yes, we do have a habit of surviving." Another ripple. This time less laughter, more discomfort. Somewhere near the upper tiers, a gelatinous ambassador adjusted its translator nervously. Evelyn opened her briefcase and removed a small metallic cube, no larger than her palm. She placed it gently on the council table. The surface of the cube pulsed once, faint blue, like a heartbeat. "A gift," she said. "Consider it a peace offering." One of the guards shifted. "Is it safe?" She tilted her head. "That depends on your definition." The cube ticked softly, rhythmic, and unhurried. The chamber's energy shifted. The audience leaned forward as if drawn by gravity. Evelyn looked around, studying each alien face as though cataloging them. "Before we proceed," she said, "I'd like to thank you for your hospitality. The chairs are ergonomic, the lighting's divine, and I'm sure the security drones will make fine souvenirs." "Souvenirs," squawked a reptilian minister. "Human, you stand before the council accused of militarized defiance." Evelyn blinked. "Defiance? Oh dear. No, that would imply you're worth defying." A murmur swept through the tiers, half outrage, half disbelief. The High Consul raised its segmented arms. "Your species has ignored our sanctions, disrupted trade, and destroyed reconnaissance vessels. You seek war." Evelyn's expression softened into something almost maternal. "War? We don't seek it. We just answer the door when someone knocks too hard." Behind her calmness, the chamber's light dimmed slightly. Power grids flickered, as if responding to some invisible signal. The cube pulsed again, steady, patient, alive. The consul leaned forward, voice colder now. "You speak as though your primitive fleets could threaten the order of 12 worlds." Evelyn's tone was warm, almost kind. "You're right. We can't threaten 12 worlds." She paused, and her smile curved like a blade. "But we can make 12 worlds remember us." The translator stumbled over the human idiom. Several delegates whispered translations to each other, their bioluminescent skins dimming with unease. A crystalline envoy whispered, "She speaks like the old predators, too calm before the strike." Evelyn folded her arms. "You called this meeting to evaluate humanity's aggression. Fine. Let's evaluate. After your fleet sterilized Arcadia, My people evacuated the survivors, rebuilt the colony within 72 hours, and then sent medical teams to treat your own wounded pilots. You see, we tried compassion, but you mistook it for weakness." She took a breath, voice lowering to a near whisper. "That was your first mistake." From the rear tiers came a deep, resonant hum, nervous energy spreading through species who had once believed themselves apex civilizations. The cube began projecting faint holographic images, laughing children, homes, gardens, all beneath a pale blue sky. Then, fire raining down. The laughter cut to static. Evelyn's voice never wavered. "That was breakfast on Arcadia." Silence drowned the chamber. Even the translation drones hesitated. The consul tried to recover. "You expect sympathy?" You began unauthorized expansion. No, Evelyn's voice was sharp now, her composure fracturing into something raw and human. "We began living. You began killing. There's a difference." The lights dimmed further. Through the chamber's transparent ceiling, the stars outside seemed to burn brighter, as if something massive blocked their view beyond the station. A shadow moved, slow and deliberate. Whispers rippled through the delegates. Evelyn didn't look up. "You came here to judge us," she said softly. "You assumed the species that laughs, sings, and builds playgrounds couldn't possibly be dangerous. But you never wondered what happens when the laughing stops." The High Consul's voice faltered. "What have you done?" She finally raised her eyes to meet its gaze. "Nothing yet." Then she turned the cube, and its hum deepened into a resonant frequency that vibrated through the walls. "That's a recording device. It's been transmitting your every word to Earth Command for the past 30 minutes. Consider it an exercise in transparency." "You dare." "Always," she interrupted gently. "That's the thing about humans. We dare before we're ready." For a moment, the consul seemed to deflate, mandibles twitching in disbelief. "You wouldn't risk total annihilation." Her reply came like a whisper through glass. "We already did. That's how we learned to win." The hologram shifted, now showing an image of the Council's own orbital fleet, recorded from within their secure perimeter. Evelyn's tone turned conversational. "Oh, and before you ask how we got that footage, let's just say your encryption's allergic to caffeine. A few sleepless engineers and too much coffee. You'd be amazed what we accomplish when we're under pressure." The humor in her words barely hid the venom beneath. Delegates murmured, translators sputtered. Someone muttered, "She's bluffing." Another hissed, "She's human." Evelyn leaned forward, resting both hands on the table. "You attacked our home. Now, we're giving you a gift you don't deserve, warning." Her eyes flicked toward the cube, still ticking softly. "Listen closely. That's not a bomb. It's a countdown to clarity." The consul tried to laugh, but it came out brittle. "You think fear will earn respect." Evelyn's expression softened again, that impossible shift from fury to composure. "Fear? No. Understanding." She stepped back, shoulders straight, voice steady as a verdict. "We're not your enemies, Consul. Not yet. But you've seen one side of humanity, the side that builds and forgives. There's another." The cube emitted one final pulse, brighter than before, casting her face in stark white light. "When this meeting ends," she said, "look to your outer sensors. You'll see what patience looks like when it finally runs out." The cube clicked once. The chamber went dark. Light returned to the chamber in flickers, like a heart struggling to remember its rhythm. The delegates murmured in confusion, their translators buzzing out fragments of panic and disbelief. Evelyn Sharp stood exactly as before, hands folded neatly, eyes serene, as if she had merely dimmed the lights for dramatic effect. The cube rested silent now, no longer pulsing. Only the echo of its last click remained, hanging in the air like a heartbeat that refused to die. "Shall we continue?" she said lightly, voice threading through the tension. "I believe we were discussing humanity's temperament." The High Consul's mandibles flexed with suppressed rage. Your behavior is unacceptable. You think you can intimidate." "Oh, Consul," she interrupted with a sympathetic smile, "I'm not intimidating you. I'm educating you." She pressed a button on her wrist device. A holographic screen bloomed in the air above her, slides flickering into existence with cheerful music so absurdly out of place that several species recoiled. A title appeared in bold Terran font, Human Emotional Response, a field guide for the misguided. Gasps and offended chittering filled the hall. Evelyn gestured as though she were giving a high school lecture, her tone soft, patient, almost patronizing. Humans are a simple species, she said. We cry easily, laugh loudly, and make promises we mean. But the tricky part, she advanced the slide. A grainy photo of mushroom clouds filled the projection, is that when we're cornered, we become something else. The chamber went still. She swiped again. Now the slide showed images from Earth history. Armored soldiers in muddy trenches, cities rebuilt after fire, a man planting a flag on the moon. Every major milestone we've achieved was born from something burning, she said. Pain, loss, curiosity, sometimes all three. A silver-scaled ambassador sneered. This presentation is propaganda. Evelyn turned to him, expression apologetic. Of course. All education is, depending on who's listening. Laughter, nervous, scattered, broke from a few delegates. She had disarmed them, not through force, but rhythm. The tone of a teacher, soothing children who'd glimpsed something they shouldn't. The next slide appeared, a family around a dinner table. We value connection, she said. Our empathy's our strength. That's what you misunderstood. Her voice thinned, quieter now. You saw compassion and thought it meant compliance. The High Consul slammed a claw on the table. You retaliated against the Council's fleets. You destroyed orbital stations. Evelyn looked genuinely puzzled. Destroyed? No. We evacuated them first. We may be angry, but we're not cruel. Then her smile turned razor-sharp. Unless cruelty is the only language left. The cube on the table ticked once. The hologram changed again, showing images of the Council's fleets idling in space, powerless, their weapons offline. Evelyn spread her hands innocently. You see, we humans like learning, and we learned your encryption patterns faster than expected. I believe your phrase is trial and error. The chamber broke into chaos. Dozens of voices screamed at once, translation drones sputtering. Evelyn waited calmly until the noise burned itself out, then said, I know this is all a bit much, but please, remember, this isn't aggression. This is curiosity with structure. A younger alien delegate, amphibian, earnest-eyed, rose from its seat. You speak as if your actions are logical, it said, trembling. But there's madness in them. Evelyn's gaze softened. Yes, she said simply. It's what kept us alive. We balance empathy and madness like two lungs sharing breath. The alien sat down slowly, whispering something to itself that the translators didn't bother decoding. She continued, pacing now. You assume that kindness and power are opposites. But for us, they're twins. Our best doctors were once soldiers. Our most peaceful nations were forged from blood. We are the only species that builds hospitals on battlefields. A deep voice from the shadows muttered, because you enjoy the contrast. Evelyn didn't deny it. Because we need the reminder. She clicked to the next slide. Photographs of smiling children next to tanks, soldiers handing candy to local kids, and a dog wearing body armor. We're sentimental creatures, she said. We name our weapons after angels and our disasters after women. We write love songs about apocalypse, and yet we always rebuild. That's what you failed to understand. You can't threaten us with extinction. We've met it too many times. Her composure faltered for a second, the briefest fracture, when an image of Arcadia's burned colony appeared. A woman clutching a child's body amid ashes. The crowd saw the change. Her voice, when it returned, was colder. You see this? She asked quietly. That's what we call a line. You crossed it. The High Consul leaned forward, emboldened by her emotion. And you expect revenge to bring peace. Evelyn looked almost amused. Peace is never given, Consul. It's negotiated through exhaustion. She let that sink in. Then, gently, she changed the slide again, this time to a schematic of the Council's entire logistics network. Supply lines, trade hubs, and communication relays glowed red. You may wish to sit for this next part. Several delegates did. Our analysts found that your fleets depend on synchronized relays. We call that a dependency issue. So we fixed it. You'll find that, as of 30 minutes ago, your central AI core now speaks fluent English. She smiled. Don't worry, we taught it sarcasm. The chamber erupted again, some screaming orders into wrist comms that no longer worked. Evelyn poured herself a cup of coffee from a thermos she brought, took a slow sip, and sighed. I missed this smell, she murmured. Your stations always smell like ammonia and guilt. An insectoid aide approached her nervously. You humans have violated countless accords. She nodded, wiping her lip with a napkin. Yes, and you violated Arcadia's sky. We're just evening the paperwork. The High Consul's voice trembled now. What is your goal? Conquest. Evelyn looked at him as if considering a small, sad animal. Conquest? We tried that centuries ago. Too messy. These days, we prefer influence. Easier to clean up. You are monsters, another delegate spat. Of course, she said kindly. But we're charming ones. The cube pulsed again, this time emitting faint chimes, almost playful. You wanted to understand humanity, she said, her tone shifting to something quieter, deadlier. Here's your first lesson. We smile when we plan. We joke while we bleed. And when we decide to end a war, we do it with good manners. Her eyes softened again, unexpectedly tender. But you should know something else. We grieve harder than we fight. Every name you took from us lives inside the fire you now see in our skies. She paused, inhaled, then exhaled slowly. You're not facing soldiers anymore. You're facing parents, poets, and engineers who have run out of tears. The lights dimmed again. Outside the chamber, a faint vibration rolled through the floor like thunder too far away to name. Delegates turned toward the viewing windows. Through the glass dome, a fleet shimmered into visibility, not military gray, but white, lined with blue crosses and red emblems. Massive humanitarian vessels, dozens of them, descending in perfect silence. What are those? The consul whispered. Relief ships, Evelyn said. Phase 1. Aid convoys. They'll land on your border worlds first. The consul's voice shook. You're invading. She smiled, soft and brilliant. We're helping. The two can look similar if you're guilty. Her eyes lingered on the glass as the fleet fanned out like a halo. You attacked our home. We're about to teach you what home means to us. The cube's ticking resumed, syncing with the pulse of the descending ships. She turned back to the council, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Next phase begins when kindness stops being enough. The cube's light dimmed. Somewhere distant, alarms began to sound. Evelyn Sharp smiled once more, bright, polite, and terrifying. You should probably start praying. The first tremor came not from the ground, but from the silence that followed it. Every voice in the Galactic Council chamber stilled as the vibration deepened, subtle at first, then resonant, like a pulse spreading through the bones of the station itself. The viewing windows darkened with shadow. 1,000 alien eyes turned toward the glass dome above, where beyond the shimmer of the nebular light, the human fleet unfolded like a flower made of steel. They had expected gray battleships. Instead, white vessels drifted into orbit, quiet, symmetrical, unervingly calm. Their hulls bore markings of humanitarian divisions, yet their movements were military in precision. Every ship's thrusters synchronized as though responding to a single heartbeat. General Evelyn Sharp stood at the chamber center, calm as ever, pouring another cup of coffee. Don't panic, she said softly. It's just weather. The High Consul's voice cracked through the air. You call this weather? You've deployed warships over our worlds. Evelyn glanced at the holographic feed projected by the cube. The fleet's formation spread across the stars like constellations shifting shape. Technically, they're aid carriers, she corrected. They deliver food, medical supplies, and occasionally clarity. The delegates shouted over one another. Translation drones stuttered and sparked under the strain. Evelyn ignored them. She tapped her wrist console, and the hologram changed. now showing the same ships descending over a dozen alien border planets. Relief pods dropped through the atmosphere, spraying trails of silver flame. "They're landing in your most damaged provinces," she said, "where your people have been starving while your council argues over jurisdiction. Humanity noticed that." "You are trespassing," the consul hissed. "Then arrest us," she replied, tone almost playful. "You'll find the cuffs don't fit." The cube ticked again. Outside, something vast moved, a carrier splitting apart to reveal a swarm of smaller drones, hundreds, then thousands, dispersing like a blizzard of light. They glided toward alien cities, their scanners painting beams across landscapes, once hidden under bureaucratic neglect. "What are they doing?" one insectoid delegate shrieked. "Administering medicine," Evelyn said. "Repairing power grids. Feeding children. Dangerous things, I know." The sarcasm slid across the chamber like oil. Some delegates looked enraged, others uneasy. The images on the screen told a different story. Humans distributing aid, soldiers working alongside alien civilians, laughter breaking out amid ruin. Yet beneath that harmony was precision, efficiency too sharp, too deliberate. "This is invasion under disguise," growled the consul. Evelyn sipped her coffee. "If generosity feels like invasion, perhaps you've built your worlds wrong." The consul's mandibles clicked furiously. "Your relief ships jam our communications, override our satellites." She raised a brow. "Do they? Must be the side effects of compassion. It's powerful stuff." Behind her, the hologram flickered again. One of the border worlds appeared, its sky filled with white vessels, its terrain crisscrossed with human drones constructing infrastructure at inhuman speed. The visual was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Every action looked like mercy. Every motion looked like conquest. "Why do this?" a timid amphibian delegate asked. "You could destroy us outright. Why help us?" Evelyn turned to him, her expression softer. "Because we've learned something you haven't. Conquest ends too quickly. Guilt lasts longer." Her words rippled through the chamber, quiet but devastating. She stepped closer to the central dais, her boots echoing faintly against the metallic floor. "You attacked us thinking we'd burn your worlds. But we prefer to let you live long enough to see what real humanity looks like. We rebuild faster than you can destroy. We heal what you break, and then we make you watch." The High Consul's voice dropped to a whisper. "And if we refuse your kindness?" She smiled faintly. "Then kindness ends." The cube emitted a low hum. Suddenly, the hologram shifted again, showing orbital defense platforms, once under Council control, now rotating their cannons away from human fleets and toward their own capitals. What have you done?" the consul gasped. "Rewired a few moral compasses," Evelyn said. "Your defense networks are powered by quantum relays. Turns out they respond beautifully to human empathy signatures. Who knew feelings could be weaponized?" The realization spread like infection. Panic bloomed. Several delegates rose from their seats, demanding evacuation, demanding answers, demanding anything that could make sense of the impossible. Evelyn watched them quietly, the faint reflection of the holograms burning in her eyes. For a moment, her calm cracked. Just a flicker, something human and fragile. Her voice softened. "Do you know what it's like to hear a planet scream, Consul? To smell fire through a vacuum seal, and know your daughter's somewhere under that ash?" The question hung unanswered. She was 12, Evelyn said. Arcadia Colony. She wanted to be a poet. The chamber went still. Even the translators paused. "When she died, I promised myself one thing," she continued. "If anyone ever made humanity weep again, they'd learn what our tears are made of." The hologram zoomed in on the alien planets, now occupied by human relief forces. Soldiers were kneeling beside civilians, tending wounds, restoring power grids. At first glance, it was salvation. But then came the next layer, subtle symbols etched into each structure, quiet marks of the Terran coalition, spreading like veins beneath the soil. "You see, we don't conquer land," Evelyn murmured. "We conquer memory." The consul pounded the table. "You can't rewrite us." "Oh, but that's the fun part," she said. "You won't even notice." You'll start quoting our poets, playing our songs, teaching your children our names. You'll call it progress." Her voice softened again, weary now, as though confessing something to herself. It's cruel, perhaps. But so was Arcadia. Outside the window, lightning flashed across the void, a storm forming between the stars, plasma currents drawn toward the human ships. The fleet began to move in new patterns, weaving electromagnetic threads that linked across systems. A reptilian delegate gasped, "They're building something." Evelyn looked up at the forming lattice. "We call it the mirror net. It's designed to reflect aggression. Whatever you fire at us, we'll send it back 1,000-fold. Energy, data, even lies. It's poetic, isn't it? You taught us deceit, we taught it to machines." The storm intensified. The chamber lights flickered, their glow pulsing in sync with the fleet. Evelyn raised her voice just enough to be heard above the rumbling. "Phase 2 has begun. You might want to update your definitions of war." The console was shaking now. You're turning peace into a weapon." "Peace has always been a weapon," she said, her tone almost kind. "We just learned how to aim it." A shock wave of static surged through the chamber as communications collapsed. Monitors went black. The only illumination came from the storm outside, the radiant arcs of a human fleet weaving a web of light that encircled the Council's worlds. Evelyn stood motionless amid the chaos, her reflection shimmering in the glass. "That's not invasion," she whispered, half to herself. "That's evolution." The console tried to speak, but the air vibrated with a deep, resonant hum. Thousands of synchronized human heartbeats transmitted across the network, uniting every ship. The sound was haunting and beautiful, like a choir made of ghosts. Evelyn smiled faintly, a glint of sorrow in her eyes. "Do you hear that? That's the sound of humanity remembering who it is." Lightning flared again, and for an instant, her face looked carved from light and grief and fury all at once. "Phase 2, she said quietly, "was never about war." "Then what?" the console rasped. She met his gaze. "Judgment." The chamber shuddered violently as the cube emitted a single, blinding pulse of white. The storm outside reached its crescendo. And then silence. The silence after the storm was almost holy. Outside the glass dome, the mirror net glowed like a constellation reborn, threads of blue-white light stretching across systems, reflecting the dying fires of the fleets that had dared to resist. In the council chamber, the air was heavy with the residue of static and fear. Delegates sat slumped in their tiers, whispering prayers in languages that translators no longer bothered to interpret. Only one figure still stood in perfect composure at the center of the chaos, General Evelyn Sharp. Her uniform was torn at the sleeve, soot streaking one cheek, but her expression was serene, almost compassionate. The cube floated beside her now, spinning slowly, radiating a steady hum that resonated through the floor. It had grown brighter, as if feeding on the collective dread in the room. Evelyn didn't look at it. Her gaze was fixed on the high console, whose once gleaming carapace had dulled to a pale gray. "It's over," the console rasped. "You've crippled our fleets. You've infected our systems. You've made enemies of the entire galaxy." Evelyn tilted her head slightly, the faintest shadow of amusement crossing her lips. "Enemies," she said softly. "You still don't understand. We don't make enemies. We make examples." Her words struck harder than any weapon. The consul recoiled, his breathing erratic, his translator stuttering. Around him, other delegates flinched as the holograms overhead flickered, broadcast from across the galaxy, each showing the same impossible sight. Human relief convoys restoring power to alien worlds, delivering medicine, reviving economies the council had let rot. The humans weren't destroying. They were fixing. And the populations of those worlds, hungry, desperate, and awed, were cheering. Evelyn clasped her hands behind her back, pacing slowly. "While you were debating the morality of dominance, we learned how to build faith faster than you could build fear. Every meal we give, every wound we mend, every song your children learn to hum from our soldiers, that's a seed. One day, they'll call Earth their ally. And you'll be the memory of arrogance that nearly starved them." The console tried to speak, but she continued, voice rising not in anger, but in quiet conviction. You call this war. We call it gardening. Her eyes swept the chamber. You thought the other side of humanity was rage, blood, and retribution. That's only the surface. The truth is worse. She stepped closer, the glow of the cube painting her face in pale gold. Our vengeance doesn't burn. It teaches. Outside, the mirror net shifted again, its glow rippling through the void like a tide. From the observation decks below, witnesses watched entire planetary defense systems deactivate in unison. The alien networks, once symbols of power, now kneeled before human code, obedient, mirrored versions of themselves. A mechanical envoy trembled. You control our fleets. Evelyn nodded gently. Only until you understand responsibility. We mirrored your aggression, yes. But we've also mirrored your history, your art, your languages, your hopes. Everything you built to justify superiority, we've preserved. Because extinction is mercy. Memory is punishment. The console slammed a clawed hand against the table. You think you're gods. No, Evelyn said with the faintest sigh. Just very determined mammals. A few delegates actually laughed, a strange, nervous laugh that teetered between awe and surrender. The cube's hum deepened, harmonizing with the rhythmic beat of the human fleets orbiting above. The sound wasn't mechanical, it was organic, like the pulse of a colossal heart echoing through the galaxy. Evelyn reached into her pocket and pulled out something small, a weathered locket. The projection lens caught it, displaying a hologram of a smiling child with brown curls. My daughter, she said quietly. Her name was Mara. You didn't kill her. Your systems did. Your efficiency, your indifference, your policy of acceptable losses. This, she gestured toward the glowing lattice outside, is her epitaph. A galaxy that finally learns the cost of convenience. For a moment, the hall fell utterly silent, as if even the machines understood reverence. The High Consul's voice softened. What do you want from us? Evelyn closed the locket, sliding it back into her pocket with almost maternal care. Not surrender, she said. Reflection. You will rebuild what you broke, under human oversight. Your fleets will deliver supplies to the same colonies you left starving. Your media networks will broadcast truth, not fear. And your academies will study the lesson of Arcadia as the day the galaxy met consequence. You would make us servants. No, she said, looking almost sorrowful. Students. The cube's light flared once, projecting a final image. A vast data web linking alien and human worlds, pulsing with synchronized energy signatures. Across it, one phrase appeared in hundreds of languages. We remember. Evelyn looked up at it, her voice soft as dust. That's humanity's greatest weapon, Consul. We remember everything. Empires fade, species vanish, but memory is immortal. You made us remember pain. Now, we'll make you remember responsibility. The consul slumped in his chair. And when we forget again, Evelyn smiled faintly. We'll remind you. Politely at first. The delegates whispered among themselves. Some wept openly, others stared blankly at the holograms. The enormity of what they'd unleashed had finally settled over them, not just defeat, but assimilation. The galaxy's oldest powers had been outplayed not by brute force, but by patience sharpened into art. Outside, the storm began to calm. The mirror net's glow dimmed to a steady shimmer, like the embers of a dying fire. Fleets disengaged from attack formation, shifting instead into orbiting relief patterns. The human ships no longer looked like an army. They looked like shepherds watching over a flock. Evelyn exhaled slowly, the tension of years leaving her shoulders. For the first time, she allowed herself to sound tired. Do you know the cruelest part, Consul? She asked softly. We didn't want this. We wanted peace. You just made us prove we couldn't force it. He stared at her, voice trembling. You'll regret this. She almost smiled. We always do. The cube pulsed again, signaling the end of its transmission. Dozens of holographic feeds flickered out, the stormlight fading from the chamber. Evelyn turned toward the exit doors, the long hem of her coat sweeping softly behind her. "Where will you go now?" asked one of the younger delegates. She paused in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the soft glow of the mirror net. "Home," she said simply, "to rebuild what's left, and to make sure no one forgets why it fell." Her hand brushed the edge of the door panel. The cube followed her like a loyal companion, humming faintly, its surface engraved with a single phrase, "Phase complete." Behind her, the High Consul's voice broke the silence. "General, what will history call this?" Evelyn turned slightly, meeting his gaze one last time. "The day humanity stopped apologizing." And then she was gone. The chamber lights dimmed once more. Through the glass dome, the human fleet began to withdraw, each ship vanishing into the fabric of the storm it had created. The mirror net lingered for a heartbeat longer, then dissolved into 1,000 fading sparks, like the remnants of a promise kept too late. In the hollow quiet that followed, the consul whispered to no one in particular, "What are they?" The cube, left hovering in her absence, flickered one last image onto the table. Earth, rising blue and defiant over the dark horizon of alien space. A voice, Evelyn's voice, echoed from its core, calm and unyielding. The species that learned love from war. Then the light went out.